Welcome to the Optional Boss podcast. I'm Josh, the other guy is Tyler, and this is episode 33, the Optional Boss Variety Hour. Tyler, how are you doing?
This is this is just basically the talk about games show, because that's, you know what, it's sometimes we talk about games all the time here, and we'll never get to talk about them all. So let's just talk about more. That's the approach we're going on today. I'm pretty swell, I would say. Been trying to keep busy with the games that I play, which are very few because I don't have much time. But yeah, I'd say I'm pretty swell. How about yourself?
I'm excited for this rambly episode. This is going to be fun, and I've been doing good. I haven't dove into a whole lot of new. Well, I mean, I guess I have dove into some new stuff to me. But and one thing I wasn't actually going to bring up, but I'm just going to say fucking now. I am playing Power World.
Yeah.
And I'm also playing Silent Hill 4 because I haven't before. I know the story behind it, but I haven't actually played it. Story's quite good. Gameplay, not quite enjoying.
It's it's the start of the downhill with the series, is it not?
Yes, you could almost say it's the start of the downpour.
No, it's not.
Any Silent Hill fans?
Oh wait, no, Downpour did come out.
Downpour was one of the Western Silent Hill games.
Oof.
So that was just a little play on words. That if you're a Silent Hill fan, you'd probably enjoy.
My history with the Silent Hill franchise it's one that I think is very neat from afar, but it's not one that I have been in any way inclined to jump into. And my most interacting with the series is probably the movie from, I don't know, I was like 15 when it came out, something like that, and I didn't get it. So
no, and okay, so not to turn this beginning of the episode into a bit of Silent Hill, because there's the remake around the corner too. Well, figuratively around the corner, which I'm going to rant about as well.
Did you mean like 2 as in the number, or TOO?
Silent Hill 2 remake.
Oh, that too.
Yes, which was one of my anticipated, but not the anticipated, because we didn't actually have a release date. The Silent Hill movie was fine. The first one, anyways. The second one apparently is hot garbage, and they want me to pay for it, so I'm not paying for it to watch it.
Yeah.
But as for the movie, it did a lot of it took the story and just kind of did away with a lot of things that it made special. I can appreciate it as a standalone, but as the Silent Hill media, not so much.
It doesn't do a good job of like representing the series.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously there's the elephant in the room for anyone who is into Silent Hill. Pyramid Head shouldn't be in the movie.
But he's the franchise mascot. He's like their Pikachu. Just
when the series monsters designer who made Pyramid Head regrets making Pyramid Head because of what they've done with him, that says so much.
It is unfortunate. He's kind of been like Jason Voorhees when the series was never about Pyramid Head. He just happened to be a very iconic monster design.
And he's only relative to James Sunderland in the second game.
But that's no other reason. Play the remake.
Yeah, maybe. So the remake, I mean, it's gotten shat on ever since they first announced it, right? Because Bloober's on it, and I haven't played any Bloober games. I can't judge them. From what I've seen, like their games do okay. This is going to be the first one with combat. So when they first announced it during the transmission, like in 2002, I think, everyone's like, oh, it's Bloober, they're going to destroy it. And then like immediately after, they're like, oh, here's these leaks of like these funky dodges and the combat looks terrible and whatnot. Because the original one trailer didn't have any kind of combat. So the state of play just happened and they had a Silent Hill combat reveal trailer. And I imagine that they did this because everyone was complaining that the combat was going to be garbage. Apparently this footage was actually from a year ago, but they're just releasing it now. So it has changed quite a bit. because there's been some leaks about what it actually looks like. Who knows what's actually going on with this game? Very very Silent Hillish in its release so far.
A little silent on that hill.
Yes. But everyone's like, well, why are you releasing combat reveal trailer? And it's like, because there was a loud majority of people complaining that there was the combat was going to be this dodgy homecoming style combat, and people didn't want that. And it's like, well, this is what combat's going to look like. Now, admittedly, a few things that I do not like about what they did show, it sounds like you're shooting a pea shooter, not a gun. And the impacts are not thumpy enough, if you will. It sounds like you're beating a sack of potatoes with a ruler.
Okay.
Not a monster.
But how about this as a twist, which I know this isn't what they're going for, but isn't the whole experience of Silent Hill to feel very vulnerable and weak, and would that not add to it than your big, powerful kapow hand cannon?
It would. It would. Absolutely. But when the gun doesn't sound like a gun, and it sounds like a water pistol, then it's not a gun. Like, you will get a shotgun, and if the shotgun sounds like meow, then yeah, that's not gonna be good. Like the pistol, it's. I'm assuming you haven't seen the combat reveal trailer.
I have not.
Okay, I highly advise you to go watch it after, even if you aren't a fan, and you'll see what I mean by, like, it does not sound impactful. It sounds weak as hell. And yes, you are supposed to be weak as hell, but from a sound design standpoint, it's weak as hell.
I am intrigued by this disappointing gun sound. I will have to check this out.
And the baseball bat sounds like a ruler against a bag of potatoes. But that's just one of those things that I'm excited for. I'm really excited for. I'm more not as much as Final Fantasy around the corner. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah.
Oh, that's looking pretty.
Did you watch any of the stuff they revealed for that recently? Oh, I did. I also highly recommend that.
Because, well, here's the thing. I want to avoid it because I know it's around the corner. I know it's going to be entertaining. And I'm going to be playing it pretty much day one. Silent Hill 2, I have no idea when that's coming out.
Now, I do know they just dropped a demo for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, not Remake Part 2, even though I have to fight every instinct to say Remake Part 2. I might check out the demo. I'm not entirely sure, because Square's been really good about this whole, like, the demo is actually just the opening of the game and you can carry over all your progress. And so
yes,
I am intrigued and I am down to just jump right into it. But because I know Final Fantasy VII is going to take up so much of my time, I am still trying to pick off a few things just before that shows up. And been playing Wind Waker on the Wii U, and I'm getting, I think, close to the end of it. It feels like, I'm in that, like, last quarter or third of the game, so it's been nice. I haven't played a, like, traditional 3D Zelda in quite some time. Now, I have a bit of a storied history with Wind Waker in the sense that, like, I have started it, I don't know how many times. It's not unlike Secret of Mana, where I would get so far and just not any further, but the difference is I didn't think I hated Wind Waker like I did Secret of Mana. So, it's just, I start it, I get into it, but I don't get so into it that I actually pull through with it. So, like, I've done the intro to this game, countless times. And this is now, it'll be nice to finally, like, say that I've gone through it. And it's also the Wii U version. It's a shame that it's so incredibly polished and, like, the best way to play it, because it's kind of hard to recommend to people when the Wii U's aren't exactly the easiest things to get your hands on anymore. And
well, especially when the Wii U started dying there.
That doesn't help either. So
no.
But it's been nice, it's not a difficult game by any means. Like, the bosses are kind of disappointing with how easy they've been, but I get it. Like, it's never really been a series for its super challenge, and even though they're not difficult, it's still fun. The puzzles have been enjoyable. Like, it's a pretty solid time for anyone who's never actually given it a go. And yeah, just and it's so pretty. Oh my goodness.
Speaking of starting it a few times, I think I've started it 3 times, and I just get past the prison, and it's like, well, I'm done with that. And truth be told, Ocarina of Time is very much like that now. I can't even get to Adult Link. I'm just like, okay, I'm kind of tired of this. And see, I don't know what it is. Like 3D Zelda just doesn't. Zelda in general, I love the series, but I just kind of don't care anymore.
I'll admit the 3D Zeldas aren't exactly my favorite, but I do enjoy them enough to play through it. It's not exactly like a Mario level thing where I never think about how much I like it until I play it. I kind of play them because they are good and worth my time. And
yes.
Now I can very much agree with Ocarina of Time though. That is a game that at this point, like, but I've also beaten it countless times, so it's pretty easy for me to get tired in that one. And
that's fair.
They're good, but they're how would I put it? Not the
overplayed.
I wouldn't even say overplayed. I think it's just the fact that there's not a lot of depth to them, right? Like, yeah, there's a lot you can do and a lot of secrets to discover, but your combat loop for the most part stays the same, except for like the unique boss fights with the puzzles and stuff. Like Zelda is great, but it is also something that I can't say aged poorly. It's just you gotta really want to get through it.
Yeah.
So, but I have been, and it's been nice. But on the side, I've been playing something a little bit smaller. I've been playing what I got a while ago, the Getsu Fumaden Undying Moon for Switch, which I really
that.
Yeah, so Getsu Fumaden is like a really old Konami game. Like it's been kind of it's not quite the same situation, but it's almost like a Kid Icarus to Metroid situation, but for Castlevania. Like, it's one of their old legacy franchises, right?
Okay.
And so this one actually came with the original, and it plays a lot like Zelda 2. It's kind of interesting.
Okay, that's neat.
Got some real old school jank to it, but it's a nifty enough game. And as for the Undying Moon, the one that I really only had interest in because it was just like Konami made a new game with one of their old franchises. Like, just
that's unheard of.
Just kind of dumped it out there for a world, and it reminds me of the like Ghouls and Ghosts, the new one that we got like a couple years ago that still hasn't gotten a physical. It feels like a situation like that, but this game is just Dead Cells, but not as good. It's actually really weird that like Konami did Dead Cells only for Dead Cells to go turn around and do Konami and do it better.
Yeah.
It's such a weird situation. That said though, now that like I'm kind of getting into the gameplay loop, like it's still good, but it's
for sure.
There's so much about it that it's like they could have done it a lot better or handled it with a bit more care. Like, I'm not going to say it feels like a mobile game, but it does not feel like the incredible polished experience that it could be. Like, the levels are procedurally generated, and they're kind of like these janky 3D model-ish looking kind of, like, it just doesn't look great. The art style, though, really cool. It goes for, like, that cool old Japanese watercolor scroll kind of look.
Okay.
But it's almost to a fault. Because, for example, the first level, it's raining, so you can't really see anything on screen. And I don't know, I play this and I think, this would be great as like a DS game. But as a game that came out past 2020, it aged poorly when it was new. So, but that said,
it was made for the retro era.
It was, and, I am enjoying it to what it is. It's basically like, instead of taking the wacky weapon variety of Dead Cells, you have, I think it's 5 different weapon categories, and your whole progression loop is you acquire materials and stuff, and when you get to the end of a level, you can either go to the next level, or you can end your run and take all your materials back for upgrades so your runs become easier and you get better stuff. Like, that's the core gameplay loop, and it is pretty engaging. It's just a shame that the gameplay could be, you feel slow and clunky, like for a samurai, you want to feel like really super fast, and it's also, the visuals are just so cluttered, and so I'm kind of like bashing my head through the wall on this one, but I will see it through. I'm just a little pissed off because I got to the end and it was just like, but you're not actually at the end. Do it again.
You can do it better.
Yeah.
Ghosts and goblins got you.
Not even good. It's just your standard roguelike crap. It's like, do it again on hard mode. This is standard. Yep. That's just Super Nintendo games.
So, kind of, not so much, but kind of in the same way. Silent Hill 4, or Silent Hill The Door, or The Room, sorry.
Oh, hi, Mark.
You go through these various worlds, because they call them worlds, like straight up, from your apartment. And then afterwards, you have to go through them all again, just with things chasing you and doing an escort mission. It's like, oh.
Forest world, desert world, ice world, fire world.
No, you got the forest world, yes, the subway world, the apartment world, the building world, the water prison world.
Almost. Okay, this is getting pretty close to a Mario game.
You heard it here first, folks. Mario and Silent Hill, same universe.
Crossover you never expected.
Right?
Yeah.
It probably adds an EXE at the end of that.
Hey, there's ghosts in Mario.
There's ghosts in this, and they chase you, and they have an aura that just depletes your health just by being near them. Let alone the fact that they can reach into your heart or reach into your chest and pull your heart out.
That's a pretty aggressive ghost.
A little bit.
Yeah.
He was a victim, and now he's just making more victims. So, should we get on with the actual contents of this show?
Yeah, we should stop talking about games so we can start talking about some games.
We'll be right back after this. Alright, so today we are doing the optional boss variety hour. This is essentially where we didn't really have a good topic that we had really enough time that we could kind of research and talk about and make sure that we know what we're talking about, even though that we don't. And so we figured that we talk about some games that we just enjoy, something that we might both know something about and contribute, and we just want to talk about games. So it's going to be a rambly episode. Now, I said that we don't. So we could both talk about it, and we both kind of had different ideas on what the variety hours here is going to be. So I picked 5 games that I know Tyler knows about or has most of them he's actually played, and I believe Tyler has picked 5 games that I don't even know if I've heard of.
That is mostly, at the very least, I'm quite certain you have not played any of these, and yeah, I just kind of looked this as an opportunity to just shine a light on some of those games that wouldn't really make it into like a full topic discussion for the most part, although they might find ways into weird like groupings of topics, and yeah, I just want to shine some light and ramble about some games that I just kind of think are neat.
Which is good. And all honesty, like I know at least one game on my list is something that we'll probably do a full topic on just because of the contents of it. But yeah, Tyler, how about you get us started off?
All right.
What do you got?
You know, like I said, I kind of wanted to like cast a wide net on some representation, so I've got like things for some different platforms, different genres and such. And my first pick for today is a game for, at least I have it on the Super Nintendo. I think it was on the Sega as well, and it's called Uniracers. And what a charming little game. The best way I can describe the gameplay is that, so you're a unicycle, just simple as that, and take the gameplay of Sonic with, you know, the fast speed momentum and the loop-de-loops and all that stuff, and turn it into a 2D racing game, essentially. And
okay.
It is a stupid amount of fun, because the whole thing, it's the joy of Sonic where it's just going fast. It's just that, but with a bit of a competitive spin on it. And it's a surprisingly difficult game, because really your only options and controls is being able to move like left and right And I think one of the buttons will make you accelerate, brake, and jump. And you have to jump and do tricks, and you have a very small window because you don't get a lot of air, and you got to do 360s and whatnot, and that'll give you a nice little speed boost. And it's one of those games that when you start getting good at it, it feels so good.
I mean, that momentum thing is always something. I'm sure I've talked about this, but you give me the momentum and mobility in something that goes fast, I'm gonna enjoy myself with it.
And I'm not a huge fan of racing games, but I do like quirky racing games, and this is so quirky that I think, now I don't know the accuracy of this, but the unicycle character in this game, I think got them sued by Pixar? Yeah, I don't know exactly what it is, but I think it was something along the lines of like Pixar had a unicycle character and sent them, I don't know, about a cease and desist. So apparently this is a rather rare cartridge, but not like rare as in worth money. It's just they got a cease and desist and had to stop making cartridges. So, And do you want to know what the wild thing is? Do you know who they is in this situation?
Oh, I used to. It's not rare, right?
It's not rare, no, but it is a company that has a rather prolific standing these days. But at the time, they were a little group known as DMA Designs.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is we're Rockstar before Rockstar. These guys just made this random little unicycle racing game that, like, yeah, if there's any way to try, if this came to like the Super Nintendo Online, I would be so happy. I own it, but it's not something I'm gonna actually like bust out every now and again and just kind of dust off the cartridge to give it a go. But I do think
it would almost be perfect for a pick up and play category.
It is very much a good pick up and play game, but I will also say like it's so unbelievably hard. Oh, and something that's really nice, like so back in the days of Super Nintendo and whatnot, there wasn't much in the ways of customization, but what you do unlock is like just different colored unicycles. And it kind of takes you back to a simpler time when unlocks were just nice.
You didn't pay for them?
You didn't? No. Not. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think because you can put in your name, and if you put in the name Sega, it says not cool enough.
I think I knew this one.
Yeah.
I know something. There was some kind of game. Was that Uniracer?
I believe that's Uniracers, yes.
Okay.
But yeah, that's just a random quirky little game that I thought I would bring to the table today because it's who talks about Uniracers?
The Optional Boss Podcast. That's who.
That's right.
Damn Skippy.
What do you got?
First on my list is Star Tropics. And this game is just one of those games that I've played ever since the NES was relevant. Some would still say it is still relevant, but still. Yeah, it was made for Americans. let's just say that. This game wasn't even released in Japan.
I think a good way to describe it, like it's kind of a vague way to put it, but take what they thought Americans would want out of a top-down Zelda for the NES.
Yes, it's a better Zelda than Zelda.
In some ways, I'm not going to disagree with you, actually. And we know my sordid history with Star Tropics. I can't remember how far I got on my last playthrough. I got further than I ever had before, but I want to say, would Chapter 4 sound like a thing?
Chapter 4 being the whale.
Yes, so I do recall the whale.
This game I play pretty much every year. Not so much the second one. The second one is quite different. But the first one, it is weird. I will fully admit that the movement is janky as hell because you hit a direction and then you will face that direction. You won't move that direction until you're facing that direction. So you hit it and hold it twice and then you start moving. So the moving is very janky, but if you can get past that, it is actually a pretty good game. And at times difficult, especially on the last level, which I'm not going to spoil, but aliens.
And bananas.
So the whole game is you go to visit your uncle who lives on Sea Island. And your uncle is Dr. Jones, who's an archaeologist. And but you get a letter from him that he left, and it says that he was abducted. So you
By
go through the dungeons and everything.
aliens.
Yep, you go through a bunch of levels, very dungeon chapter based, and trying to find your uncle. And you eventually find your uncle, and he gives you the rundown that he was able to escape and everything. And yeah, so it's very puzzly. It's very it can be cryptic, but not nearly as cryptic as some games. I would argue that it's probably less cryptic than Zelda 1 by far.
I would as well, because I think
Yes.
probably the most cryptic it gets is when you're dungeon crawling, and let's say, you kill all the enemies on screen, and then you hit the switch and you open the door, and it opens like two pathways, right? One might loop you back around, one might be the right way to go, or a dead end, or what have
One
you.
might
It's
take you
not,
right out of the level.
Actually, okay, so this rings a bell. Something that was like mildly frustrating, and it's kind of one of those things that, like, you don't know until you know. What was it? It's like the graveyard, and like you go to
Yep.
take exits, and there's like false exits.
Yes.
Yeah, so like minor frustrations like that, I would say is probably
Absolutely.
the most difficult it gets.
Yes. Just kind of understanding, oh, I won't do that again. So it does have a
Yeah.
little bit of trial and error. Unless you're very observant, then you can kind of see where the little shadows are beside the wall. If you're good at picking out patterns, which that's one skill I will say I'm pretty good at picking out. It's like you see those number things on social medias. Oh, find the 5 instead of the S in this, and you'll that kind of thing. If you're good at those, you'll notice the little shadow and the hiding spots that you can get out of. So it's very strange. But yeah, good times. It ramps up the difficulty when you enter the last chapter. Holy shit. Because it goes from like a maybe 3 or 4 difficulty to about an 8.
Yeah, but the music's a jam.
The music is pretty damn good.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't dislike Star Tropics. I just don't like playing it.
It's the movement.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the
The movement
grid-based
is
kind of stiffness to it. It's
yep.
and I do like how hilariously American it is.
Oh, it's very everything's named after soda.
Everything's named after
Americola.
soda, and it's just
It's not America, it's Maricola.
It's an American fantasy that's just tropical islands and aliens and cola.
And your main weapon is a yo-yo because you're an ace pitcher in your softball team.
Yes. Wait, what?
So what's yeah, no, that's actually it. You
Oh.
use a yo-yo because you can pitch the yo-yo.
Oh,
But they call it a star because of trademark issues.
that's right. And the protagonist's name is Mike.
Yes.
Isn't it Mike Jones?
Yep. Because your uncle is Dr. Jones.
Right. Oh, Star Tropics.
It's a good time. 2, you don't have that same movement issue. So it is good, but it's much more cryptic. Holy shit. What's your next game?
So the next game is, I don't know if we'd ever get it on a Mindy's. It'd be kind of neat, but it's a game that I just also feel needs a little light shed to it. And it is by one of the developers of my favorite indie games of all times, which is Risk of Rain, which I'm not going to talk about, even though it is really good. But they made a little game called Deadbolt. And
Okay.
Deadbolt is just fascinating. The best way I can describe its gameplay is almost take like a 2D sort of puzzle-ish approach to a game like Hitman almost.
Okay.
So, to set the stage, you are like a Grim Reaper type thing, and this game is so bonkers. You're basically an assassin, and you are taking out gangs of zombies and vampires and skeletons. Like, it's absolutely absurd, but it's the kind of thing where, like, you need to be super stealthy. And you go in, like, you can see your screen is basically, you see the whole layout of the building and all the rooms and stuff. And you kind of have to plan your approach as to how you can take all these guys out and complete your objective. And as a Grim Reaper skeleton kind of thing, you have a couple different abilities. Like, you can turn into vapor and like go into the vents so you can kind of sneak around the house and get undetected and plan your routes and stuff. And as you go, you can unlock some new weapons. So you'll start off probably with something just really, really basic like pistols, right? So you'll have like 6 ammo. How do I figure out how to clear this house with 6 bullets and trying to be super stealthy?
Okay.
And eventually you'll unlock things like, shotguns. You can play a little bit more aggressive. It's one of those things that there isn't one right way to solve the puzzle. And oh, it's just so fun. And I think the thing that makes it super compelling, it's not that it's like just a cool, challenging puzzle game that's also like really intense. Like it's kind of Hotline Miami-ish, if that makes
So
sense.
it's funny because I was almost going to compare it to Hotline Miami. Not quite the same
Yeah.
idea, but there's more than one ways to go about a situation, and you kind of got to plan out how you're actually going to attack. You can't just you go in willy nilly. Who knows what's going to explode or how you're going to die? Because
But it's
Hotline
not
Miami, you
that
got
you can't.
one shot kill, right?
Yeah, like you can take those approaches, sure, but you can
Sure.
also take the much more slower, methodical approach. Like cool things you can do is you can shoot let's shoot some of the lights out and then you leave the room and it makes the enemies a little harder to see, so you can kind of like open the door slowly and shoot at them. Or
Right.
sometimes you'll be in an empty room, but there's like a microwave in there. So you set a timer on the microwave, you leave the room, and then, or you go hide behind a couch or something like that, wait for it to go off, people come in because they hear the noise, and then take them out. Like, it gives you so many possibilities, and it's so charming because it's all done with this very minimalist pixel art style.
Which is cool.
Oh, I'm a sucker for that.
What's the game name? Gunpoint. Reminds me of Gunpoint.
I don't
the
think
description
I
of it.
know that one, actually.
So if it is similar, take a look at Gunpoint. It's like a 2D side scroller where you can see the apartments and you kind of have to sneak in and try and assassinate people.
Is it kind of like almost like a SWAT game?
No, I don't think so.
It does sound vaguely familiar.
I haven't actually played it. I've just seen a bit of gameplay. Not very much. I have it in my Steam library, but backlog.
Now, the one thing I will highlight is not only is like the gameplay of this thing really good, it somehow has one of the like most touching stories of any short little indie game I've ever played. And again, I will reiterate, the premise is bonkers. Like you are taking out zombie and vampire drug lords. Like it's so weird, but yeah, the overarching story that you get throughout it, somehow very sweet and touching. Like I don't know how they managed to do it, and I'm pretty sure this is a game jam game because that's kind of how they primarily did stuff before. I think now that they're
a
working with
lot
Gearbox.
of like indie games come from game jams, and it's always
Yeah.
nice to see them actually expand out.
And it's like full price. I don't know. I think on Switch it was like $8.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it is super awesome budget title that I just think deserves some attention. Also,
I'd get a physical if they ever came out with one.
I didn't get it, but the only physical that this has come out for, there's Limited Run did a PS Vita release.
Okay, if they came out one for Switch, I get it.
In a heartbeat.
I actually have it on my Steam wish list. I've had it there for
nice.
2 years, 3 years maybe.
That was probably around the time where I started playing it. So that would, or something around that anyway, I would believe. So yeah, Deadpool.
That would line up.
Check it out, folks. What you got next?
All right, so this is one that we'd probably do a whole episode on, but so my approach when I made my list was what were some big influential games, let's speak here, to me. And so Star Tropics was one that I mentioned that I grew up with and play almost every year. One that I try and get to every year. I didn't last year, but it's Mother 3.
Ooh.
And Tyler, you've played this. We've talked about it. Hell, okay. So Tyler, have you listened to the Bossy episode that we released 2 weeks ago?
No, I have not actually.
Okay, so I'm going to spoil something for you. All the music in it is from Mother 3.
Oh, I'm okay with that.
Because the Mother 3 soundtrack is fantastic. But it was also on the first annual Bossy Awards. I had Mother 3 music in that, so that's what kind of made me, well, let's just do something that's kind of reoccurring. And that'll be our kind of little Easter egg for anyone who doesn't hear this episode, but from now on.
It's also the very first track that we ever used for this podcast.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. Absolutely. That's right.
Yeah.
And
Set the
so
tone for the whole thing.
Mother 3, we'd probably talk into quite a bit more detail about it some other time, but it was never actually released over in North America. It's only released in Japan. And there is a unofficial Mother 3 translation that I highly suggest that anyone plays. People have made cartridges with it. So if you want to play it more that way, by all means. But the translation was actually done by a guy named Clyde Tomato. And he's an actual localization guy in the big world. Like he's done localization for like Kingdom Hearts and shit like that, right? So play Mother 3 any way that you can. Because it is absolutely adorable. It is it'll make you cry, quite possibly.
It'll tug at the heartstrings, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. But you're essentially following the story of a pair of twins who you control one, and you're trying to save this little world where, yeah, everything knows peace. There's no such thing as mourning. And then all of a sudden, all those feelings start coming to everyone. Everyone starts experiencing that kind of stuff because bad things start happening on their nice, peaceful island.
Yeah, like capitalism.
Yes, capitalism is the big thing. It starts off with like a giant forest fire, and the bad guy who you learn down later on in the line is like making chimeras, however you say
yes.
it. Yes, half animal, half robots, because quote unquote they aren't cool enough by themselves.
I've loved that reasoning. This would be much more neat if it was half metal.
Yes. Well, that's one thing with the logo of the game too. Like Mother 3 is half wood, half metal, and then when you complete the game properly, anyways, the logo just goes straight to wood.
I don't think I noticed that actually.
Yeah, it takes all the metal away.
Oh, cool! That's a very nice detail. Well, I mean,
and it unlocks the sound player because they know the soundtrack is fire.
Oh, the soundtrack is so good.
It is so good.
So I would say that the game won me over because I've made it very clear that like Earthbound, not really for me. I'll probably see it through to the end one day. It deserves it, but woof, another one that I've just tried a bunch of times and haven't been able to really get into. But that said, Mother 3 just won me over right away. Oh my goodness, it's so charming, and I want to talk about things, but it's definitely the kind of game that I don't want to spoil. But I will say, because this happens, I don't even think it's like within the first 5 minutes of the game. So it's kind of a world where, or at least as Josh mentioned, in this world where nothing bad happens to anybody, you can just get along with the wildlife because everything's peaceful. You don't have to worry about, like the deer or the wolves, or in this case, the T-Rexes doing any harm
dinosaurs,
to you.
The Dragos.
Ah, yes, that's right. They were called Dragos. And so at the start of the game, you're playing with this Drago, this T-Rex looking thing, and it's just like play fighting with these kids, and it's just so damn charming.
Yeah, you're literally running into them, and it's like plays fake fall over, and then it gets back up, and then starts playing with the kids again.
You got me! Like, that's exactly. That's just so adorable. And then tragedy.
Chaos strikes.
So
and give you an idea of like what the town is, the main city is. These guys don't have like a what's it called? Like an economy, like a currency or anything like that. They don't pay for anything. Oh, this guy does like building houses, but you do baking, so you'll provide bread and stuff for him as he builds your house or any kind of fixes and stuff like that, right? Like everybody is literally the sense of community.
Well, and then there's the bell tower guy who's like 16 feet tall. He's just nifty.
Yeah, he is just nifty. Yeah. And there's a whole other story behind that. But and then when chaos starts happening, and then the bad guys start bringing capitalism in, and everyone starts getting greedy, and you kind of see the whole nice community start falling apart.
It's not subtle.
No, it is not
It's not subtle at all.
No, it is very in your face. And when you reach the monkey, you know you're in for a good time.
Monkey. Yes.
Without saying much more on it, because we will talk about it one day, I'm sure. I don't want to do spoilers in this episode, so
no, not for something like that.
No, this is just a play it.
So should we mosey on to my next bit of randomness?
Yes, I got a quick question though. Is Chrono Trigger on your list?
No.
That's funny.
No, it's not on my list. As much as I love
it's
talking
not on
about
mine.
Chrono Trigger, it's one that will. There's games that I want to kind of like shine a spotlight on, and that game steals the spotlight. Like it. Oh, when we talk Chrono Trigger, we'll be here for a minute or two. That's for sure.
Yes.
No, my well, not the list entirely, but my next game on my list is one that I have mentioned. I don't want to say like in jest, but with a half-hearted tone, because it's kind of just one of those games that sounds so dumb, but I genuinely love it, and that is Robopon 2. And
yeah, I should have guessed that this was going to be in here.
It's first of all, like Pokemon found a tried and true formula, and they are definitely the pioneers of it. Although realistically, at this point, they're far from the only ones. There are so many different things that have done the monster taming genre quite well. Heck, even a new contender in the ring with a lot of contention. But
yes,
Robopon 2. Well, okay. Before I go into its sequel, the first one I have to point out is as hardcore Pokemon clone as it gets, to the point where I think they actually if they didn't steal it, they definitely took way too much inspiration from what the main character sprite looks like. Like, it is on par with the Pokemon protagonist. But I digress.
This is just the protagonist, right?
Yeah. But the sequel did a lot more. Took more of an original approach, but essentially Pokemon but robots. And the few things that it will do differently is, for example, 1, you get equipment. Equipment on your monsters, or in this case, robots, are always quite nice. 2, you build teams of 4 instead of teams of 1 to be out at a time. So it's more like a traditional RPG with a full-blown party. And you don't actually catch your new robots. This is actually the system that I like about it most, is you find batteries throughout the world. Just different brands and designs and what have you, and you combine 2 of them together, which just kids at home don't do this, but you smack 2 batteries together and brand new robot. And the designs are so dumb. Like, for example, and they also evolve. Like, they still have very much of that kind of Pokemon vibe to it. And one line, the first one, it's like an old Nokia phone, and then it's like a slightly more sophisticated looking cell phone, and then its final form is like this giant mech made out of like a rotary phone. Like, it's so dumb. Like teapot robots and trains and but it's also,
Pokemon has a set of keys now, so
now, yes, but we're going back to so this is a Game Boy Advance game, and
yes,
it's just so dumb. The story is not well put together, and I don't think it's primarily a localization thing. I think that it just kind of just does not take itself seriously. And
so I'm looking at screenshots of it right now, and the only thing that's coming to mind is this is rip-off Pokemon with robot masters from Mega Man that were from Wish.com.
Kind of, yeah. That's not a bad way to put it at all. And
it looks really good.
It's really good. It's a lot more if you would rather just a traditional RPG than you would just something more like Pokemon. And I think the robot designs are really something that kind of drives me to it, because it's not the plot. Plot's bad. Hilariously, though, people die in this game, all the time. And it's not tragic. It's played for laughs. Okay, so this is I'm going to explain kind of the scenario. Your quote-unquote gym leaders, because it's still going to have that kind of gym leader arc. You're going around, you're defeating the, I think, 8 of them. and then you want to become the world champion. There's also a plot for taking over the world, but I digress. The first guy you go up, I think his name is Mask Man, and he's using his status as, I think it's called like the Legend 7, and it goes up 6, 5, as so on and so forth.
It is Mega Man from Wish.com.
Well, okay, but the bad guys are robots, right? They're people. They just have robots, kind of like Pokemon. And so he goes around terrorizing towns, and he's just like, if anyone wants to stop me, they have to take my title. But the only way you can challenge someone is if you have this thing called an X Stone, and it's basically like a proof to challenge the champion sort of thing. And all of the villains of your arc at the time basically do something where they have hidden the stone, so now no one can challenge me and take my place. But they hid it like 20 years in the past. So there's time travel in this game, just 'cause. And so wackiness ensues. You go back in time, you find his stone where he hid it in some like ancient Egyptian tomb, and you go bring it to him, and you defeat him, and his wife leaves him and takes the kid.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, this actually happens. Oh, and then you destroy his house. Well, that was a fine time. Let's move on to the next chapter of the game. Like, it's bonkers. So...
This makes me want to actually like play it, to be honest.
How can I not shed a light on Robopon 2? Like, it's so stupid in such a good way. There's a chapter involving aliens. Like, it's just so dumb and so enjoyable. And yeah, as an RPG, it's pretty solid. There's also 2 versions. It did the Pokemon thing. There's a ring and a cross version. Really, it's not going to say either one's better. So, but the one thing that is cool is you get your starter pair of batteries to get your quote-unquote starter Pokemon robot, but if you go off the beaten trail, you can find another one and basically get like a super overpowered one at the start.
Oh, nice.
So good.
First-time players would not know.
No, very much so. That's one of those things, but like I've been playing this game since like I first rented it at Blockbuster, hilariously enough. So yeah, Robopon 2, it's a wild time, and that's why I had to talk about it.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, what do you got next?
Next one is actually going to be one of your favorites and one of my favorites. Something that kind of set the world on fire with how popular it made. It created a genre. Any guesses on what game we're going to talk about that created a genre?
Created a genre?
Yes.
Because see, I thought the hint
really put it in the forefront.
World on fire, and yeah, I was initially going to say Hades, but it did not create Doom.
No, although that is actually on my list. Dark Souls. Praise the sun.
Oh, Dark Souls 1, you say?
Yes.
Oh, I have some things to say about Dark Souls 1.
Yes, I know you do, because its world is a giant cylinder, and it's just fucking great.
It is so good to explore.
Yeah, I'd be very hard-pressed to know someone who doesn't know what Dark Souls is. And maybe someone who hasn't played it, sure, but they've very nary is there a person in the gaming world that doesn't know what Dark Souls is.
So here's a fun question for you.
Ring.
Yeah, geez, that's a household name at this point. What was your thoughts on Dark Souls before you played Dark Souls?
I didn't understand why someone would want to play a game that's just meant to piss you off.
Funny enough, yeah, that's kind of the outlook I had on it as well. Like, it was one of those games that just had such a reputation for being just
difficult
frustrating
for the sake of being
fuck.
difficult.
Yeah, like it's
right?
like,
and
why would I want to do that to myself?
That's not what it is at all. And it pains me to say that the first Dark Souls game I played, or Souls game I played, was Dark Souls 3. And I used a lot of summons in it, and I got it on sale for like $15 or something on Steam. And played it, used a lot of summons to get through bosses and stuff. Didn't really get it. And then I took a break from anything like that. Then I played Bloodborne. And did that solo, and actually got to the end. And it's like, okay. And then Demon Souls came out. Played that, and that's kind of when things started clicking. But the one that a lot of people know more than Demon Souls, until the remake anyways, was Dark Souls. Everyone's Dark Soul this, Dark Soul that. And of course Elden Ring now, but Dark Souls, it's very much these games aren't about annoying difficulty. These games are about overcoming an obstacle.
It's just Banjo-Kazooie. That's all it is.
How so?
It's just like going.
Where's the music notes?
Well, see, they're not music notes. They are the souls of demons, and
the souls of demons.
It's no different than going up Grunty's tower.
I think there is, and
it's a little different than going up Grunty's tower.
Yes,
I actually
think there's very weird presence compared to what we first thought and what we now believe, and it is very much it's not difficulty for difficulty's sake. It's difficulty for the actual challenge. Like there is rhyme or reason to every kind of move that there is. And it's something that anyone who hasn't played one of these games, it's easy to think, oh, it's just difficulty for difficulty's sake, and just like we did. And then once we actually got into these games, it's like I understand the appeal, because there is no intrinsic force on the outside helping me get through this. This is my skill base that's actually helping me overcome.
Well, and it lets you do it however you please. That's the wild part. But the interesting
it gives
thing
you the
is,
tools.
So the impression that I got, because the first Souls like I played was Bloodborne, and I was like, this is kind of neat, but I don't know if it's really for me. And I didn't really put much time into it, so it didn't really sink its teeth into me. And I can't remember what. I think I was watching someone play Demon Souls. And
yes,
the fact that you could get like random weapon pickups and the variety to it all kind of piqued my interest. So then I started looking into Dark Souls, because Dark Souls is essentially what Demon Souls would eventually grow to be. Like, Demon Souls is almost a prototype for Dark Souls when you really think about it. And
absolutely.
Something about it kind of intrigued me, and I picked it up for Switch, and I just fell in love with it. Like, it is probably still to this day like my favorite of the From Software kind of Souls games. And weirdly enough, when I was playing through it, the vibe I got was like, this is kind of like the Ocarina of Time formula to the nth degree. Like, it felt like it had like a lot of that traditional Zelda baked into it, which is a really weird way to kind of circle back around. But
yes, but I kind of get what you mean.
Yeah, it's
because you have your order that you have to do things in. Granted, they are a little loose, but like you got the first 3 dungeons before you go into the second half, which is Adult Link and Ocarina of Time. Where this, you can ring the door. You got to ring the bells, right?
Yep.
And then you enter the Anar Londor, which could almost be like the castle before you get into your adult version. And so on and so forth. Then you get into the second half when you're hunting things down.
It had a very kind of standard adventure game progression, which was oddly kind of refreshing.
Yes.
Yeah, no.
It's almost portrayed as open world, but it's not.
And the challenge
you have some freedom.
You know, I think the meticulousness of the challenge, if it's not for you, it's not going to be for you, because there's going to be a lot of frustrating stuff. But there is something oh so satisfying, like, and I think it would appeal to, or at least just my take on it, gamers of our generations who remember the days of like lives and very difficult levels. Like, you know, I grew up playing on Mega Man, so like you get 2 inches further before you get a game over. That's progress, and that feels great. And Dark Souls kind of brings that back.
I made it to the boss. I picked up my souls.
Yep. Yeah, I made it to the boss. I got halfway down. I killed him. Like, it feels good.
And we have a mutual friend that didn't know if he'd ever touch a FromSoft game. He liked the appeal, he liked the aesthetic. And it wasn't till I want to say Bloodborne. He finally picked up Bloodborne because he started getting into the story of it first. And he always just figured the same thing as us, is these games are just made to be difficult and piss you off, where no, there is rhyme or reason to everything you do. No, it was Elden Ring. It was Elden Ring, then Bloodborne.
Elden Ring is
back
hands down like the most approachable of them, and I feel like Yeah, it brought in a lot of newcomers, and I'm worried that a lot of them aren't going to go back to the old ones. But it's so good.
Yes.
And Elden Ring, I
If
still think is too much of a good thing.
Yeah, it's the giant chocolate chip cookie. You're eventually going to make yourself sick of it.
Yeah.
But still a good time.
It's great, and I am very much looking forward to when the DLC comes in to like play it again. But between
Yes.
something like I would rather play Dark Souls 1 again and again over Elden Ring because Elden Ring is so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Dark Souls 1, if you haven't played a Souls game, give one of them a try, just not two.
It might also
I would honestly say Elden Ring because it is the more approachable one, but you'll understand when you stop looking at it from a frustration standpoint and look at it as you need to overcome this obstacle. This is the mountain that you need to climb. There's a rhyme or reason to everything.
Well, actually, hold on. What have you mentioned so far? You've Star Tropics?
Yep. Mother
Dark
3.
Souls and Mother 3. Okay, so I guess aside from Mother 3, so far all of your games have been readily available to access somehow. Like Dark Souls 1 you can play on multiple platforms currently, and Star Tropics is on the NES Online, right?
Yes.
I think the only
if you do play Star Tropics on the NES Online, 747 is your code.
Yeah.
Because you have no way of finding that out in game.
That's a crucial bit of information you need to get to Rob.
Yes.
The only game I've mentioned so far that is easily accessible to the public is Deadbolt, and I'm gonna spoil it right now. It is going to be the only one.
So I will say this. I mean, these games are so old. If you can't get them easily,
you can get them easily.
Then go the alternate illegal route.
Yep. Yeah, that's
and the reason I say that is if the developer is actually getting the money for it, like don't go buy a used cartridge because the developer's not getting anything. If you could actually pay the developer, then yeah, pay the developer and get a copy yourself. That is my firm belief in that standpoint. If they don't give you any way that you can give them money and it's only secondhand, fuck that.
Yeah, just as long as you can play it a way that you can enjoy playing it, that's really what it comes down to.
Yep. What's your next game?
My next game is one that, I mean, I have played for, I played years ago, but I only added to my collection recently to go against the hilarious notion of, don't need to buy things, but I bought this. And now, we all know I'm dying for the day that I get to talk about some Mega Man on this channel, and even though I am about to talk about Mega Man on this channel right now, it's not exactly to the extent that I would like to. Yes. That said...
that's like Mother 3.
I picked up, so it's a spin-off of a spin-off. It's in the Mega Man Battle Network series, but is not on the Battle Network collection because it's, well, quite frankly, in most people's opinions, not very good. And that is Mega Man Battle Chip Challenge.
They should have put it on anyways.
I think they should have put it on anyways because, one, it does have, like, multiplayer aspects, and two, it's part of the franchise, and it was one that was released on this side of the world, possibly exclusively. I haven't looked into that entirely, but...
See, this is why we need the Mega Man throwaway collection.
The Mega Man Scraps collection, yes. I would advocate. Give me the Wonder Swan games, give me, like, Rock Board, the PSP games. You got so much more still in that vault. I want to play that goddamn racing game. Like, soccer. We're denying the world Mega Man Soccer. But Battle Chip Challenge, it's an interesting game because it kind of works a lot to the theme and the flavor of the Mega Man Battle Network franchise, as you know, you've played it, like, Mega Man isn't just like the guy who goes and solves all the problems. There's like the human character, and then Mega Man is kind of like his what would you call it? I was about to say associate, but that didn't really sound right.
Not associate, but kind of like it's almost like your avatar online. But it has kind of a mind of its own.
Yeah, and so thematically, like instead of in the Mega Man Battle Network games where you actually control Mega Man, he's supposed to more so have a will of his own, and like Lan would feed him battle chips, not actually, but you know, send them to him so he could use them in battle, right? And Battle Chip Challenge actually makes it more like how it would be thematically, where you don't actually control your net navi. And it's more or less RNG based, which is a little bit frustrating, but it's a card battler, so it kind of has to do its own thing. And basically, how it works is you get the different battle chips, so like cannon does 40 damage, what have you. And you load them up to a deck. And how your deck works is you're placing them kind of like on a path of a grid. So you'll have 2 different branches, then 3 different branches, then 4. And how turns take place is it'll randomly pick a path to go down, and you'll use that sequence of chips. Cannon, sword, what have you, right? You place them in any order. And yeah, you just kind of let them go at it. And hope for it's an auto battler for the Game Boy Advance.
That's kind of neat. And I know, so off air, we were talking about this game when you first picked it up.
Yeah.
And all honesty, it was making me kind of have an itch to play Loop Hero again.
Yes, that's right. Aspect. You mentioned how it kind of had that parody to it.
Yeah, it's like an auto battlers can be great if they're done right.
Yep.
This one maybe not so much, but it's also back in the day, so it would have been plenty enough.
I actually
now we need a little bit more.
Like, having put some time into it recently, like, okay, during the time where Mega Man was just super oversaturated and they were pumping out games left and right to the point where, like, Mega Man fans were getting fed up, yeah, I can very much see the reception of this game not being that great. Honestly, though, just as a neat little time waster and as someone who enjoys, like, deck building games and card collecting kind of stuff, it's actually really cool. Like, you enter different tournaments, and the tournament will have a condition of, like, oh, most of the navis here use, like, thunder-based chips, so you got to go in with, like, wood elements, stuff like that.
Yep.
And the other thing that I think is really interesting, too, is you're not exclusively, you don't have to be Mega Man. You have 6 different characters you can choose from at the start, and even still, you can unlock different characters to use throughout the game. So you can unlock, like, Guts Man or Quick Man or stuff like that and build decks based around them. Like, it has a lot of interesting flexibility to it. And if you're just a Mega Man fan into that kind of stuff, it's actually a really good time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and
it's pretty cool. I'd certainly be willing to check it out one day.
And just as another offhand neat thing, I have the Brady Games game guide for it that I got years ago without even having the game, and now I'm like, oh, good, I finally have both. I can figure out what these. You had to go out of your way to
buy this game so you can justify the book.
Well, I mean, it's a Mega Man game. I want it in the collection, but yeah, it's nice to have a game guide that I can actually use for a game from 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's Mega Man Battle Chip Challenge, everybody. It's another weird one.
So the next one on my list is one that kind of got spoiled. Doom.
Like, are we talking Doom 1 Doom?
Yes, Doom 1. Doom. We'll toss Doom 2 in there as well. Because again, my list is based on like things that have really changed my opinions in gaming and changed my course in gaming, I should say. Like Mother 3 gave me a whole other respect for touching stories. Dark Souls 3 or Dark Souls in general has given me like the combat feel. Star Tropics was just something that I played a crap ton as a kid. Same with Doom. And Doom is kind of notorious for like its first person shooter and how early on it was for that, right? So just slaughtering demons as the Doom Slayer.
Now, what would you say is your favorite of the boomer shooter kind of style? Now, like when I say that, we've got obviously Doom, Wolfenstein, Duke Nukem, like things like that. Not Half-Life. Yep. Half-Life would automatically win, but I personally feel like Half-Life was the shift.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was, and that's why Half-Life 1 was such a big deal, right? Yeah. And I almost wanted to put Half-Life 1 in here.
That would have been weird, because I was thinking about Half-Life or Half-Life 2, but I thought, nah, we're going weird.
Yeah, and, well, I mean, I didn't really go weird. I went a little off-center, but...
Yeah. Yours, it's funny, because yours is like... as you said, the games that were kind of formative to you, to your play styles. Mine are just a result.
Fair.
Yeah.
As for me, I'm going to say Doom. I played
Doom
a
is your
crap ton of Doom. With one of my buddies. We used to get together almost every weekend. We used to play co-op in Doom because there was I think it was Doom 2 that we did co-op in. I remember always having to ask my parents if it was okay to play the Doom shareware version because we had like one of those old DOS discs with 101 games that we used to pop in and play, and it was on
yeah.
CD. It was great. That was the style at the time. Um, just over and over and over again. Then we got a copy of Doom 2 because that was nice and easy to get a hold of off my buddy who lived up the road, and just played that over and over and over again. Whether it was an actual run, whether it was using cheats, whether it was on Don't Hurt Me Daddy or like normal difficulty. Never did go into ultra violence mode or anything like that. Still to this day, but I mean, Doom is just the game that runs on everything. It is everywhere, and there's just a way to play it. There's no excuse not to be able to play it. So if you want a piece of nostalgia or a piece of gaming history and what really shot the boomer shooters and first person shooters into this light, Doom. Check out Doom. Just the original Dooms.
I've always liked Doom, but of the
Doom!
Doom-esque games, I would say my favorite has always been Heretic. I don't know, maybe it's like hard medieval theming to it, but something about it has always kind of gravitated me towards it a little bit more. But I would actually say the one that I've played the most of is actually probably Wolfenstein. What would be the one with like the standard mostly blue walls? That Return to Castle Wolfenstein? Or No, that's Wolfenstein 3D.
Yes.
Yeah. Played me a
that
lot
would be
of
Wolfenstein 3D.
3D.
And the next one, which was like, I wanted to say it was an expansion. I don't think it was like Wolfenstein 3D 2 or anything, but that was Spirit of Destiny.
Yes. Yeah, it was the same but more. And giant robot mecha Hitler, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was in chapter 3, I think.
What a time to be alive.
Right?
Oh my. But
yeah,
they're fun.
Doom was definitely the one I played the most. I don't think I know I've played Heretic, but I can't really tell you much about it. I don't think I've played it that long.
So Heretic was kind of like what Hexen would become. It was just a lot more like original Doom, like as where I think Hexen is a little bit more 3D and closer to something like kind of in the middle of like Quake and Doom.
Yes.
Maybe more like actually like Duke Nukem is how Hexen would play. You have a little bit of a Y-axis, but not much.
Yeah.
So.
No, then I mean you get that in Doom.
You get that in Doom, but Doom you can't really look up and down.
No.
You just kind of shoot in that direction, as where I think Hexen you actually can.
Yes. Fair enough.
Good times.
But still, Doom. Doom is just wonderful. Everyone knows Doom.
Everyone, and yeah, it's one of those games like it's like Uniracers earlier in the episode. It very much fits that kind of pick up and play vibe.
Yes. And based on the recent articles that have circulated around Doom, running on gut bacteria, Doom could be playing inside you right now.
Doom could be inside you.
Tonight at 11. Doom! What's your next game?
My next game, my last game of the day, is going to be an obscure entry in a very popular franchise. Now, pray tell, what franchise do you think I would be pulling from? I've already done a spin-off of a spin-off today, and we got another one, but how do I hint around this? So we both played a bunch of them. We have done a dedicated episode on the series. Any guess?
Okay, so it's going to be a Final Fantasy.
It is going to be a Final Fantasy, yes, and it is.
Is this
for the Nintendo
Crystal
DS.
Chronicles?
No,
on the DS.
we're
is this going to be Theater Rhythm?
No, as much as I love Theater Rhythm, no, this is even more obscure than that. This is Final Fantasy Fables Chocobo Tales. Yeah,
that's a mouthful.
Bet you don't know much about that one, do you?
No.
It is very much like.
I bet you I know the theme song.
It's probably the Final Fantasy theme or the Chocobo theme or a nice mix of the two. Yeah,
probably.
It's such a high fan service game. It's incredible. It's heavily based on a lot of that like Final Fantasy 1 style archetypes. so you'll see stuff like, goblins, Ahriman, like those kind of designs, right? And
Yep.
basically you are like this chocobo, I think at, I don't know, like a fucking ranch. I don't know. And it's got a very strong storybook approach to it, and it treats the Final Fantasy franchise like it's a storybook. And then I think like an evil book comes to life and terrorizes your little village or something. It's been a long time since I played it. The plot is very generic. Gather the 4 crystals. It just finds a way. It always does. But the gameplay,
Yep.
so at its core, the main game itself is, he's talking about another deck builder. It's cards. And yeah, it's kind of like these card battles, and you use like classic Final Fantasy like monsters and summons, and you do all that. But outside of the card games, where the main plot takes place, what you're doing to progress through the game and unlock more cards is you play a whole bunch of random Final Fantasy mini games.
Huh.
Yeah.
There's
like,
Triple Triad on there?
No.
I always got to ask about Triple Triad because as we've discussed before, I actually don't mind Final Fantasy VIII, and Triple Triad is debuted in Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah, I'm more of a Tetramaster guy from Final Fantasy IX, which is funny because everyone hates that game. I don't know why.
Because it's not Triple Triad.
I haven't really given Triple Triad a go. It's the one
fake
thing.
Triple Triad.
I do look forward to Triple Triad when I ever eventually get around to 8. But yeah, it's a really charming fan servicey mini game collection Final Fantasy. It's just wild. Now, something that I think might put some people off of it, well, one, if they could play it, is I believe it is a purely touchscreen based game. Yeah. But so much fun. And like the mini games are really stupid but simple stuff. Like you have like an adamantoise, or I guess a turtle for people who don't know what that is, and it's like sliding down the mountain, and it's like tap the screen in time to stop it right before it hits the edge. And getting gold on these challenges is some of the hardest shit I've ever done. Like this seems like a game that you would expect is like really geared towards kids, and I'm sure it is, but it's also very much geared to diehard Final Fantasy fans, and like they like a challenge. And
yeah, and just people who appreciate the spin-offs.
Exactly.
Right? Like that's going to be your diehard Final Fantasy fans, but
yeah, I remember I got this game when it came out, and so good. And then I didn't, and now I have it again, and it is nice to see on my shelf. But
just a good time.
It is. I figured that would be one that no one had ever. Well, people have surely heard it, but our listeners, maybe not. Maybe they'll look into it. Maybe they won't. Who knows? It's the Optional Boss Variety Hour.
If you've heard of it, let us know on Twitter or Instagram at Optional Boss PC.
Yes,
there's a quick plug.
There we go. Get us some engagement, folks. What do you got for our last game to close us out for today?
So my last one is a very popular series. We've talked about it already tonight, and but it is my. I'm safe to say that it's my favorite in the series of this game. For Super Nintendo, it's A Link to the Past.
Oh,
Legend of Zelda. And this is on Switch Online as well, but so I never actually owned this growing up. We always got me and my brother always got a copy off my uncle. We used to borrow it off him all the time. And I don't know why there was always I never knew how to get the 4th bottle, and then me and my brother figured it out, and it's like, haha, we 100% of this before you. I have played this game so many damn times to completion, and almost to the point like Ocarina of Time for you, where it's hard to just kind of go back to now. It's almost become a pick up and play just because I know everything there is to it. And
I have easily done Link to the Past more. It's so good.
Yeah. Oh, it's just so good. You got the dark world, the light world. I mean, they kind of cheaped out by having the same world, but at the same time, it's so different. Yeah. So yes, same map, but so different. And they've used that kind of method a few times now. But oh god, it was peak Super Nintendo adventure game.
Well, I mean, the thing is
as well, but
I can Link still say is so good. To this day, Link to the Past is easily my favorite Zelda game. Like,
absolutely,
it's very much a nostalgia thing, but also I do enjoy that top-down formula so much more. I don't know if I'm just a sucker for more nostalgic, retro-esque takes on things.
A game boomer.
I am a game boomer, and I am proud to admit that here on this very game boomer-centric podcast.
Yes.
What even is a Fortnite? But anyway, so fun fact about Link to the Past. This kind of circles back to me talking about Wind Waker earlier. So, do you know about a speedrunning glitch, and you can beat the game in under 5 minutes?
Yes.
I'm sure people have done it much faster, but I've done this a couple times because it's actually surprisingly easy to do. And
I've never actually done it, but I know of it.
It's a neat parlor trick. It was fun because I got it you could get Link to the Past on the new 3DS, and I get it, and sometimes I'd just be hanging out with people with my DS. I'm like, hey, you want to see me beat Zelda? And I just bust it out and just beat it in under 5 minutes. But in doing so, because when you start off Link to the Past, it's raining, right? And by beating it when you do, you don't trigger the rain graphic to actually stop. So the credits play and all that stuff, but it's raining over top of everything the whole time. And just a fun little theory is, in doing so, you caused Wind Waker to happen. It's not actually what happened, but it's still just
but that's kind of neat.
It's a neat way to tie it in. Yeah,
it's a game theory.
It's game theory. Yes. So no, I always think
I like that.
And the music is so good.
The music is good. Just the overall flow of the game, it's not that cryptic. It's very straightforward. It's very it still has its puzzles and its difficulty in that sense. It's not a very difficult game by any means.
What?
But
there is one thing I will say about Link to the Past, though, and this is kind of one of those things that I don't know. I can't speak to them. I'm not a child of this generation. But I feel like it's not going to have that same kind of oomph as where, I remember the first time when I was a kid, and you finally get to the town, and you're just blown away that you're in a town, and, there's people, and, what's going on in this house, and, it was just, I don't know, it was such a wild thing to fuel the imagination back at the time, and then you're in the dark world, and then you're like, what's the evil town like?
Yeah, and then it turns out that there's ghosts everywhere, and just everything's bad, and there's guards back ready to slaughter you.
It's what a timeless
being terrified of the third dungeon in the Dark World, going into that giant skull head after you burn it.
Is that?
That
yes, in the forest. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's also where it's got mummies and the I can't remember what the name not master hands.
Oh yeah. The stupid hands that come and grab you and put you at
floor
the beginning
masters
of
or wall masters.
Yes,
yeah.
Wall masters.
I think they're wall or floor depending on what game. And it's funny because they are always the most terrifying thing in every Zelda game. Encountering them in Wind Waker, they look cool, but they're still spooky as fuck.
They're spooky, and it's the extra anxiety that goes along with them because you don't want to go back to the beginning.
No,
it's one of those fuck off, demon.
That's a pretty fine choice, I would say. That was a good rounded group of games.
A Link to the Past definitely makes me reflect on the past.
Yeah.
It was an easier time. These games are all the games that I picked had some kind of effect on my gaming landscape that I have now, and they all hold a place in my heart.
Mine just more so highlight that I'm just a weird nerd who likes some hyper niche stuff.
Yeah, so you got a bit of almost 2 episodes in one in that sense.
Getting a little bit of both sides because we didn't communicate what to do.
Well, we said things that we enjoy.
We said 5 games each.
Yeah, 5 games each that we want to talk about, and it's pretty much that. There's again Mother 3 and Dark Souls is probably going to have their own individual episodes one day.
I'd be fine with that. Hell, even Link to the Past.
Because Dark Souls, we probably talk about the general FromSoft Souls era. Mother 3, we've both played, and we both have a lot to talk about that we didn't want to dive into here. So that would be a spoiler filled episode.
All right. Well, given the nature, we got 5 each. I guess to close this out, what would you order these in most to least recommended for other people?
For other people?
Yeah.
Most to least. From my list,
The least to most, I suppose.
Least to most?
Yeah.
Star Tropics, least.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Doom. I'm gonna say A Link to the Past.
Yeah.
Dark Souls, Mother 3.
I think that's a pretty good order.
Mother 3 being the most recommended, just because people... I find, like, if you have a very story-driven game in that aspect, you can have a lot more attention. Souls, because it is quite the experience. Where Star Tropics is a personal love, and I know that it can frustrate some people, especially if you aren't used to retro games, just because the movement is clunky. Doom, we all see the after effects of Doom now, like where first-person shooters have gone. It's a nice blast from the past to check out. And A Link to the Past, it still holds up today. It still looks great, but not everyone's going to be up for that.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good order to go in. Think for
now
myself,
with your wacky list, let's hear it. Least most.
So I'd say at the bottom of my list, I would give probably a Battle Chip Challenge, just because, like, if I'm going to recommend a Mega Man game, I'll be honest, that's not it. And it's very much like, it's a good card game, but it's a card game you're not going to get into unless you're a Mega Man fan. That is for sure. So that'd be at the bottom,
Fair.
and just above that, probably Final Fantasy Fables. Now, it is a bit more approachable because it's a mini game collection, but it's also like, again, it's a fan's game, right? Like, you gotta really love Final Fantasy to play things that are beyond the realm of Final Fantasy. And then after that, I'd probably recommend Robopon 2, because Robopon 2 is just so weird. And if you think, oh boy, I'm sure sick of the Pokemon franchise, well, have I ever got the knockoff for you? And
we already have that.
But this this is a special knockoff.
If you want a retro Pokemon, but not Pokemon.
It's its own beast, that's for sure. And I will also reiterate, like, people die, and then they're like, ha ha ha, wow, moving on. And then I would recommend Deadbolt, because it's an indie marvel that really needs the attention. It's cheap, and it's so good. And like I said, I'm not about to spoil it, but it's a surprisingly heartfelt story for a game about killing zombie drug dealers. And then lastly, just because it's probably the most gamiest game on my list, and it's the one that started it all today, I gotta say Uniracers. There's a way to play Uniracers, do it. There's nothing else like it. You're a unicycle. You just go. It's
the Sonic of the Super Nintendo.
If I had to describe it in a word that I'm sure the game uses itself, it's rad.
All right. Well, I think that wraps us up for the 33 episode. 33rd
yes,
episode.
The 33rd episode.
The 33rd episode.
Yes.
We make our own lingo here.
Yeah.
At the Optional Boss Podcast. But that has been episode 33. We've been Josh and Tyler. If you want to catch us on any kind of social medias, we post some not often, admittedly.
We're there.
But you can catch us on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it nowadays, or Instagram at OptionalBossPC. You can email us any questions, or if you want to be read on the show, optionalbosspodcast@gmail.com. And we will see you next time.
Bye.